questions on entrepreneurship about for you.
Awesome.
I know that you've been very, very successful in the automotive business.
Mhm.
And I definitely want to ask just a plethora of questions. You get me on, what can a person do? You get me to actually build relationships. Like how can a person go out there in their life and they can begin to build relationships? How can a person do that? How can they go out there and begin to build relationships?
So I would say I would argue
To
vehemently.
create to build success like you have because you started off owning a business, the
Mhm.
small the car dealership, which is amazing. You got me
Thanks.
with that question to lead with it and
Yeah.
building relationships so that other people can go out there and begin to establish relationships with everyone.
Okay.
And then
I mean,
later I'll ask to turn into
mhm.
sales.
Okay. I'm not a huge sales expert. I will give you my
Just relationships then.
perspective
Yeah.
on sales. Obviously it's been a part of my life since forever. It's, in my opinion, sales is secondary. So I know that revenue is sanity, or I'm sorry, revenue is vanity, but margin is sanity. And the only way to make margin is through relationships,
Margin is to the relationships.
in my opinion.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, you want me to answer that one? Which one do you want me to answer first?
I mean, it's just I want to learn about relationship building, like because I know you were in the car business, so
Yeah.
just relationship building, like I just going at it. It doesn't have to be sales centric,
Okay.
but just like the aspect of it, like how can a person, if you were to distill it, if you could distill it, if you were to try and distill it there, like the
I think
organic process of that, it's like, hey, and the relationship you get me, so that people, yeah, that.
I would say that relationships are built on courage, right? So I may be uncomfortable in my own skin. I know I still have a job to do to pay bills, right? And kind of search around in your what are we going to call it? Zone of genius, is what my coach calls it. And then you find a space that like really fits with who you are. And then you form your connections and relationships based on your authenticity. So for me, what that looked like for me was I struggled to find my place in the automotive world. I struggled to find my place even in our own business. That's not a secret. So I was, sorry, Dad. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, who am I and what am I willing to sacrifice? Like, what pieces of myself? Well, I'm not, right? So, if I'm going to stand in my integrity and I'm going to operate from a place of passion, then what am I passionate about? And for me, it became not wanting anybody else to feel as alone or as frustrated as I was. And one instance of that there's a couple that come to mind immediately, but one that is super impactful is how I met one of my best friends. We were on a plane. So in the automotive world, there is a conference that happens every year called NADA. And it's one of the biggest conferences in the nation. It, many, many dealers go. And I was on a plane with my dad. We were flying over. At this time, I was on the California New Car Dealers Association Board of Directors. And then so my dad was talking to another dealer, a woman, and I was like, woman dealer? Like, how did I not know that there was
Yeah.
another woman dealer
Oh my
in,
gosh.
in our city? And
How do
I'm
did you
sorry.
meet her? How did you get to like meet her? Did you like were you introduced or did you just like
Yeah.
begin to talk to her
Well, so
over
my
there?
dad introduced me
Her.
to her mom, and I introduced myself essentially to the daughter and was like, "Give me your number." And in the Central Valley, I'm in Central California. We don't have like a high density of car dealerships, right? So we're not a saturated market like Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, any sort of like large metro. So it can get kind of competitive, and especially that generation, they see each other more as competitors than colleagues. Um, and I wanted to kind of change that narrative because, rising tides lift all boats.
Wow. Yeah.
So while we were in Vegas, I was texting her and I was like, "Hey, let's get together. Like, let's be friends." And kind of the rest was history from there.
Whoa.
And it was because I acted like in my authentic self. Another one.
In
Go ahead.
confidence. Okay. And then what else?
Well, so confidence is a muscle, right? So you
Oh,
don't
okay.
you don't just walk out and be
Cool.
like, "I'm the shit."
Why
Excuse me,
not?
did I say that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
I'm
It's
amazing. Or
it's
maybe you
cool.
do, but real true confidence is a muscle that you have to exercise. And even though I was uncomfortable doing that, there was something bigger than my fear in that moment. And then another friend that I met, I messaged her. I sat on the that same board with her dad, and I was like, and I saw her come up on LinkedIn. So I messaged her and was like, "Hey, you're also what we call in the industry as a next gen, and like let's be friends." And she's also become one of my closest confidants. And that's a muscle. So I kind of went out and decided I'm okay getting rejected because at least I'm trying and I'm putting my authentic self out there. So to build that confidence muscle, it's just doing that same thing over and over and over again.
And then, so in the car dealership, you get me. I definitely want to talk about like your past, your present,
Sure.
and your future. You get me? Like, how was
Yeah.
it when you first began the business? Like, did someone hand you the business? Did you start the business and having your own dealership? And you get me, how were you able to, you get me, go on and do other things? I saw that you were part of like the NDA and other like associations and like from what it's like you're part of like, other like these it's like the government, like a government,
Yeah.
like California government, is that what it is, right? Of like dealerships,
It
which is pretty cool. I don't know how that works, but
so it's an
you're part of that,
association.
and and the association, and
Mhm.
you have a voice, and you talk, and you speak, and you empower others, and and you put and you kind of just build them from what I saw like online. It's like, hey, I want to empower them. So it's like I want to talk about like your past, like your present, and your future, and then in kind of like, when you first started and you first got that business, how was that like? I mean, how were you even able to become part in building relationships with others? And like, how were you able to just do all this, like just yourself, Miss Heron, Hillary?
So
Yeah,
I'll say this, nothing is done in a vacuum. Nobody is
yeah. So you did
self-built
all that.
in a vacuum, right?
Yeah,
Um, my story is I'll own it. My story is rooted in nepotism. So my grandfather started the business. He was an auto mechanic. He started consigning cars. I'm giving you the kind of quick version. Started consigning cars. It was easier on his body than wrenching. And then that side of our family is Armenian.
that's
There,
amazing.
there was a lot
That
of
must have been a lot of fun.
I assume so because this
You must
happened
have really
before my
enjoyed it. Like
before
everywhere
my
you went,
dad
it's
was
like,
even born.
wow, you felt like you're the stuff, like yeah, so it's like it's like I'm the bomb. So it's like that must have been awesome. Is correct? Was that correct?
Well,
I just
I
looked up
would
nepotism. I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, what is
so
this?
So it's basically it's family, right?
Cool,
So
cool.
my grandfather started the business. My he was a he was a mechanic, then he was consigning cars. He eventually obtained a new car franchise. Um, and then my dad came into the business and he ran the business for many years. At 11, I wanted these sunglasses, and he was like, I'm not paying $89 for sunglasses. You've lost your mind.
That's so
And I was like,
cool.
I played softball. And so I was like, there's
Yes.
my blind. I need these glasses. I need these Oakleys.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
he's like, you're ridiculous. And I was like, oh,
I
well,
love
whatever.
it.
So I went to work, sweeping
The
floors,
goods.
filing papers, answering phones. I took a semester off between high school and college, and I worked full time then
Yeah.
also. And then my cousin was also in the business. And in 2014, I started to buy into the business over time. And then eventually when we sold the business, it had been we had purchased our portions of it. And then we got out.
That was the
So
first dealership that you guys owned,
so we
or that was a different business?
I'll say we,
'Cause that
but
I that I can only imagine how much fun that must have been for you. You get me. I don't know about anyone else. You get me. I don't know about them yet, if B. But for you, you know how much fun that was. And then like the collaboration, like the
yeah.
mastermind, like just the collaboration of that is what I want to share.
I mean, I work really well with my dad and we can bounce things off each other pretty easily. And
Yeah.
I I love that part of the business. There were other parts that weren't so awesome, but even though it was my dad's dealership built by my grandfather, I still struggled to find my place. Like said, we had other family in the business. And I kind of moved through the different departments, figuring out what I was good at in each one. But I tend to be a problem solver. I tend toward that. I tend toward like digging in, figuring out what's wrong, and then fixing it. And I will attribute a lot of that to my Virgo sun sign. Um, it just I still struggled though. I still struggled and felt like I don't belong. And there's a lot of chatter, right? When you're the boss's daughter, there's a lot of chatter, and
Cool.
I wanted to silence some of that by paving my own way, essentially. And again, nothing is done in a vacuum. Everybody, like I was given an opportunity and I capitalized on it, and I can confidently say that I was very blessed. Um, when I was, oh gosh, I would say the year after I started to buy into the dealership, I was invited to Washington, D.C. For a lobbying day, which is essentially educating legislators on how the automotive industry works, on how their proposed legislation impacts dealers and their constituents who are the dealership's employees. And on that trip, I remember walking around in Georgetown talking to a member of the association at the time saying, where's the conduit for the next gens? Where's the conduit for the people who are like me to get into being able to share our knowledge, share our advocacy, share our voice in California? Because in Washington, they had started bringing dealers in from around the nation, younger dealers, to get them engaged. And so that prompted me kind of lit me on fire, if you will, I campaigned and was elected to the CNCDA board of directors. Um, Launched a next gen group for California. It took some time to get it off the ground, and it took a lot of really hard conversations. The automotive industry is heavily male dominated, and it took conversations, especially specifically awkward, where I'm like, why would you not let your kid come to this? Why would you not let them, especially if they're in their 30s, let's say, why would you not want them here learning about what's going on legislatively that impacts them down the line? Because what is done in Sacramento, in my case, in California, in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. today doesn't usually have a trickle down effect for the next, 3 to 5 years, typically. Some things are totally different, but those hard conversations had to be had. And now,
What
I,
was the light in there? What was like the solution? Like at the end of the tunnel.
I don't know if there's like a light or a solution. I know that I
Yeah.
built some really meaningful relationships, and I intentionally formed relationships with some of the, we'll call them next gens, so that they knew there was somebody else out there so they weren't alone. When you're being told to wait your turn, me too. When you're
Not
being
cool.
told I need you in the store, me too. Like, and that was, I think that was a, I think that made a huge difference. And then when I met my girlfriend Elena, she and I, we became a tag team, right? Like you don't expect, two blondes to walk in. A legislator doesn't expect two blondes to walk in and be like, let me tell you about the car business. And it turns out that that makes a big difference in their ability to understand how that impacts the economy, how that impacts their constituents. Um, so I would say maybe the light at the end of the tunnel is it's the showing up. It's the just continuing to be there and to not be afraid to use your voice. Or you know what? That I take that back. Be afraid to use your voice, but use it anyway. Speak up
Wow,
anyway.
cool. Wow, that's just like that's like a I don't know what other word to use, but it's a lot of
Mhm.
value. It's like value packed.
Thanks.
So, and then and then where are you at on like so the dealership you guys had that part of the business you were there. Do you guys still have the dealership?
We don't. We sold
You
it in 2023.
guys sold it. Got it in 2023. And what was the business that you guys had, and then you guys divided it up in between amongst of you?
So we had the car dealership. When we sold it, we all left the business. And the automotive industry is very interesting. It's old school in the way that it's old school in a lot of ways, but it's old school in the way that when I left, I, no matter what I had achieved, accomplished, done, how many people I had folded in or mentored, I was essentially dead to the industry, right? Like as you're on your way out, they're like, "Oh, we're going to invite you to be a speaker and, come to these events and like be there for people and they can call you and use you as a resource." And the day that the transaction closes, it's crickets. And I understand that. I understand
How
the
come?
way
Why do you think it's crickets, or like how come it's crickets?
I think I think it's dual faceted. I think it's the way that the industry's always been, number one. And number two, I think that I am a younger female, and that industry is still heavily male dominated. And that's okay. That's the world we live in. I know what I did while I was in it was intentionally seek out females who were in the industry who wanted more than wait for later or than be a receptionist or be in, do payables and receivables.
Were you in sales there like at all?
No, but sales was not my bailiwick. I had a retail clothing store while I was in college, and I had worked at a retail clothing store before that. Can I sell things? Yes. Do I think it's my strong suit? No. I think my what's the word I'm looking for?
Did they do well,
Yeah,
businesses? Like
they
how
did
well
all
did
right.
they do?
They did they did pretty well. The clothing store I worked at when I was younger is still around.
Yeah.
The clothing store that we opened, the retail store we opened when I was in college, it was in 2007, 2008. So when 2008 took a serious nosedive, so did everything. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make long-term financial sense at that age for me to continue to invest until we got through it because nobody knew if we were coming through it, when we were coming through it, how we were coming through it, the great American dream is the bounce back. So, that's coming. We just don't know when. And I didn't think that it was prudent to do that.
Oh, and then how? And then okay, cool. And then how did you guys like intake like business? Like how good did it do? Like the business for like the fashion?
It did all right. I mean, so we sold almost exclusively Lilly Pulitzer. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand.
I'm not an expert. I don't
It
know anything
is,
about it.
it's a very bright, intense, it's very East Coast, Palm Beach, if you will. Uh, it's very punchy. So I'm on the West Coast. I'm in the Central
Yeah.
Valley. There's a lot of farmers here. We feed the world from here. And I don't know that people at that point, I mean, we were in that transition into I don't care what anybody else thinks, but I don't think we were quite there yet. So it was a combination of those things and then when people stopped consuming as much in 2007, 2008, it was the frivolous buys that went by the wayside, right? The bright dresses weren't necessary at that point. Like
Got it.
pajamas were necessary, jeans were necessary, but the novelty items really weren't.
Got it. Got it. All right. And what other businesses did you have that you guys like transitioned into in between that, like playing around with it?
So since the automotive industry,
You had the fashion and then
I did the fashion, did the automotive
yeah, oh my gosh.
retail, dabble in a little bit of real estate. Went down the cannabis road a couple times, and that industry's so saturated that unless you've got like a unless you've got like a plan, like a good plan, it doesn't work out super well. And we had taken on partners that were more artists than business, and it didn't make sense. So those things went by the wayside. Recently had another opportunity come my way for cannabis also, and the opportunity or the venture just doesn't fit with what I'm doing now. Something that has been a pattern throughout every business I've been in, relationships in my life, is I thrive on helping people. I'm that codependent. No. So that's how I got into the coaching and mentoring space. I want to help people help themselves. Get out of your own way. If you can't get out of your own way, you can't go anywhere. If you can't stop spinning your wheels, if you can't make a conscious decision in the morning that you're not the victim today, and that is really kind of the premise of what I help people with. We've joked for a long time that I should have been a therapist. I should have gone into mental health care. Um, and I chose not to after we sold
Yeah,
because they carry a
all
lot of
that.
certifications. They carry a lot of there's a lot of things they can't do. So if I want to go where a therapist can't and a business coach won't, I can't I can't tie myself to that. Does that make sense?
Mm, yeah,
Fair enough.
cool, cool. And then what other businesses did you do when you were like younger? You had the one that you guys shared amongst yourselves. You had done
Mhm.
the fashion one when you were a little bit younger. And like we're transitioning to like where you're at like now. Like what other like how many other like in your hand was it like three, four, five with three to five?
I have a consulting arm of what I do now.
Yeah.
Because I have that because I like strategy. And I think it fits in with the
Yeah.
coaching and mentoring also. Um, my my family's very entrepreneurial, both sides. My mom has a restaurant, so I help out a little bit with that. Um, I'm trying to think what else we've done. Property management. We've been, I say we because a lot of them are things that overlap between either family members or business partners. I think that's it. I don't know if
Wow.
there's anything else.
And then those and those that how many business was is that? Like what else did you guys do? Like more or less.
I mean,
What did you do? Because this is amazing. You've had so many businesses. You've borne a lot of fruit. You get me. You're part of all these things, and it's like you're a pillar there. You know, it's like people can go to you. You're just there, and you have like that. You know, it's like what was the word again? It's like nepotism. You know, you have that like again, which is awesome. Just there, and all that, and like, anything else you do, it's like you have that, and you're coaching and such. What about like is that what you're doing now? Coaching? You're like a keynote. You're like a speaker. Have
a
you?
little bit of speaking. I've kind of taken a step back from that. Um, if the right opportunity comes up, I love to get on a stage and tell my story, right?
Cool.
Maybe not love it, but I would definitely do it because I think that there are parts of it that can have an impact, and I think that people relate to the feelings. The coaching and consulting is more where my focus is at this point. I I like to see those tangible small movements in people who are showing up just a little more confident today, who made the decision to reject the job because even after the interview, they got offered the job. It would have been, an advance for them, but it didn't feel right. So I love to hear that story, like, hey, I didn't take the job because it just didn't feel right. That is that is what I want to be helping people do. The
Wow.
the hey, I took a break. I rested today because of our conversation.
I rested today because that's awesome. And then, so like, what do you do for like others? You get me, and them having like, like breakthrough and like kind of like an impact where it's like, hey, like there was a wall there and like you bulldozed through it. You kind of went through it somehow. Not like a football player, or it's
Yeah.
or it's like it's like or like a sled or like have you those things where it's like you pay to go to a certain place and you're breaking walls? I've seen that. I don't. I'm like, it's interesting. Like, I don't know how, yeah, sure, there's a lot of ways to like tackle that, but it's just, yeah, like, yeah, so like, so like, what other businesses have you operated in? So you've done fashion, you guys have done automotive, you have been in the cannabis one. What other businesses have you done that you had like yeah,
I mean, I think that pretty much encompasses it. I don't know that there's
and now
many
you're speaking,
others.
which is good.
It it's great. I'm not really focused on that at this point. If the right opportunity comes, I will happily take it. But until that opportunity shows up, I'm not pursuing it. I did for a minute. But like I said, it was the broken promises in the automotive industry. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna hound it. My heart is in making an impact for people. If I can do that through speaking, great. I know I can do it through mentorship and through coaching. So that is where I focus. It's a little bit more granular, it's more personal. You can make a bigger impact in a single life, right? Than a lot of teeny tiny impact when somebody walks out of a speech and they're like, oh, I got something good for that, but I forgot what it was.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
cool, good. I mean, good. I'll take more in. Um, uh, I love it. This is so cool. And then that's where you're at right now. And then so right now you're speaking. That's like what you're working on right now.
Podcast. Well, I've got a podcast if we want to consider that speaking, but
That's awesome. That's like,
coaching
yeah,
and consulting is really where I'm at.
coaching, consulting. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Do you have any books yet?
So, funny you ask. I have
Yeah.
been in the process of writing this book since 2022, or it was 2022. It was right before we sold the dealership. And it was really about the experience it's of being a woman in a boardroom in a heavily male dominated industry.
And you were
Uh,
like winning.
what?
You were like winning. You were doing good. You were doing
I
well.
mean,
You were
yes.
building. You were like, yeah. Tell me about that. Like,
So,
what I want to get, like, how it is that you're positively influencing all the people around you, like being like an influencer
I mean, it's showing
from
up,
your
right?
perspective. Yeah.
It's representation.
Yeah.
I when people are unapologetically themselves, I have girlfriends who are like, I wear all black, and I'm like, unless your reason for wearing all black is that you want to like reduce the decision fatigue noise, then what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I, I have I often end up in all black to reduce the decision fatigue, but I have very little black in my closet. Because that's not really who I am. Am multi-dimensional. I have a lot of different layers. Like I can wear a lot of different hats. I'm not great at all of them, right? There are some things that I am great at, and that, like my coach will say, that's the zone of genius. That's your zone of genius. Like own that. And I'm like, that's fair enough. Like, right? That's what we want to hear. We want to hear, okay, yeah, you pinpointed it. You can crush it. Um, Back to the automotive industry, what I think made an impact was going for the things that I was told I just couldn't do. You can't treat other dealers like partners and not as competitors. You can't be a next gen
I wanted to
and
ask about that. Like you're thinking how it's like different, and you
Mhm.
have like forward like thinking like that, and you're able to just kind of like sh revolutionize things, and you're it's like and you have like it's like hey, and then they're like yeah,
I think it's a feeling.
and
I
you
think
were
it
just doing
comes
that right
like
now, so it's like which is really cool.
it's a feeling. It comes like you know something is missing, right? So in that case, the next gen group was missing. Another female on the board of directors was missing. Like when I joined, there was only one other woman on the board who was of the same generation as, most board members. I believe I was the first next gen elected to the California board. I believe I was the first or second next gen elected to the National Automotive Dealers Association board. When I was elected to that board, I was one of 7 women. That's crazy. That board has 65 people on it or 67 now, I don't know. Um, and for only 7 women to be on the board, it's not representative of the industry. It's not representative of the consumer. It's not representative of how buying decisions are made. And so I felt like it was a really important thing to to pursue, even if it didn't go the way I wanted. At least it was something that it was a muscle I was exercising, and it was showing others that they could do it too.
Mm. Wow. And then what all and then okay, and so speaking, what can people like get from you when like you're speaking pretty much? Your website's really well put together, by the way. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed it. And it's
Thank you.
like and you have like so many resources, you get me. And then doing well and having nepotism, you get me. So that's just amazing. I like,
Mhm.
it's just like which means that you get me, you're yeah, so it just they can look up the word. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant.
If an opportunity is
That was me
presented
though.
to you
Yeah.
and you have the opportunity to take advantage of it, do. If it feels like the right thing to do, take advantage of the opportunity. The noise falls away. The noise eventually falls away. You choose whether to carry it with you or not.
Cool.
Excuse me.
Cool. It's fine. I don't know what else to ask. You got me. What is what do you what projects do you have for yourself like on the future? What do you have lined up? You know, like in your little pod like the podcast episodes so that people can kind of like check in, chime in. It's like, hey, what's Hillary been up to?
So I'm rebooting the
Maybe
pod,
this year.
or I'm
Yeah,
attempting to reboot the pod.
cool.
Um, I've got a few people, lined up. Um, I've talked to a woman who is not only is she an influence, like a fashion influencer, but she's also in the Navy. Um, and I think that is impressive. I took my kids to meetings with me. My dad came to one of our meetings and watched my daughter while I was sitting in a board meeting, right? Like being able to put like the change that is happening, the pendulum that is swinging, if you will, out into the world so that other
Uh,
people don't feel so stuck. I think it's such a beautiful way that we use social media and the internet. Not to say that we don't use it for some absolutely terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things. But I think that it, if you get your algorithm right, right, if you're consuming the right things, you can see like the beautiful changes that are happening in the world. And having the courage to share that is amazing to me, right? Like it's still something that I have to practice or to force myself because I'm like, why does anybody care that I have 2 kids? But I'm also recording a podcast while my daughter's watching TV because she didn't feel like going with her dad to take her brother to school. Like sharing that kind of stuff is like, why do people care? Well, people care because that's the life they're living now too. That's they if they feel stuck, if they feel like they can't, I hate to say that you have to do many things and that that's what makes you relevant. It's not. I think what makes you relevant is sharing your story with authenticity in a way that other people can relate to it.
Wow. Authenticity and then getting yourself and then what how can you talk can you like if you're all right,
Yeah.
how can a person be authentic and relatable? Like how can a person have authenticity? Yeah,
I, they have to stop pretending to be someone else first. Everybody else is fake.
sure.
There's,
Love it.
nearly 8 billion people on the planet. A lot of them are on the internet.
Yeah.
And you trust that with consistency, they'll find you or you'll find them, right? Because there is a central place now where you can find people. What I am noticing, or my perspective is that people are very lonely, right? They're lonely in their own lives. They're lonely. They feel isolated. They're also spending a lot of time behind a screen, which then now we've created what we can take as an opportunity. It's a challenge and it's an obstacle and an opportunity. So if they're feeling lonely in their own lives, they're finding their people online. We've never been more connected. We've never had more ability to go from physically from one place to another. So while somebody that I feel like I super click with lives in South Carolina, we can get on a Zoom, we can get on a FaceTime, we can text back and forth, where previous generations haven't had those opportunities, right? They've had to figure out who fits like in their area or what's good enough. We don't have to settle for good enough. I mean, sometimes I would argue that just chilling out and being like, okay, it's good enough is a valid part of life and it's super
Okay.
important to be able to do. But it doesn't have to be with everything.
So cool. I love it. I'm looking forward to you creating another podcast episode. I'm always the podcast, I'm always trying to learn more about yeah, I love learning how people work. Like the understandings of a successful mindset and
Mhm.
then the skills behind it. Like what social skills, what dynamics did you put behind that to create a life by design? Like how does that like how were you able to work that? Like how did that work? And then another person that's it's like, it's like they go through like an episode like this, they're just getting tuned up. I don't know, they're it's however the speaker creates they're going through like a formula, like a playbook.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, this could be 997. You just didn't know. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
So
And the
yeah.
same thing doesn't work for everybody, which is another
I
thing I
don't sell
think.
information. I don't sell data. Like
Yeah.
I don't. But just I'm trying to make like a bad example or good. I love programs. Right? I buy them all the time. Like or like a good
Mhm.
example. But I want to say bad for myself. I don't because I don't sell data. Not that it's bad. I buy it all the time. But yeah,
I mean,
continue,
you
please.
don't, if that's not a part of your journey, if you're not like great at sales, that's okay. You're great at something, right? Like you know your zone of genius. That is, and I keep saying zone of genius. I got to give full credit to Jillian Murphy for that. That's her catchphrase. Um,
Cool. Are you
and
guys
and
familiar with one another?
we are, we are.
That's so
She's
cool.
my coach actually.
For real?
Hmm.
I will message her on Instagram. I
Oh,
just had her on my
awesome.
podcast.
I
Yeah,
love Jillian. I mean,
cool,
I would say
cool.
that I'm a but and person. If you can start
Found her
to
episode. It was
if
good.
you can start to replace the word but occasionally and replace it with and, for example, I'm not getting along with someone right now, but I have to go to this birthday party. And you replace it, you kind of reframe it. I'm not getting along with someone right now, and it's important to me to still show up for them because I still love them. Those are different things, right? And it's about the way you talk to yourself in your head. And it's about catching yourself when you're in the spin and you're like, I'm the victim. Everything's so wrong. Da 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 da. And reframing instead of being like, but I could have. It's and I did.
And I did. I like that.
I hope that that's a takeaway. I hope that that's
Yeah.
something that anybody who hears this can listen to and resonate with.
Well, I'm gonna stop recording. I don't know if you have
Okay.
any. Yeah, here. Let's go.